What broke me? So going back to when I started my business, my wife and I had this vision that we were going to start this company. And because I had so much success in corporate, I just thought that it would be automatic. We were living in a very nice area right outside of Columbus, Ohio. We were starting our family, and because I had God in my life, I never thought in a million years that what happened would have happened. There were times when I was faced with a decision on whether or not I should pay my employees or put food on the table for my babies, because at this time I had 2 kids with one on the way. My wife had left her job. She's at home, so we're depending on my revenue. And so all of these things kind of come to a head. And in 2014, we were served papers to begin the foreclosure process on our home. And so I'm thinking, well, you know, I still have a faith in God, and somehow this is all gonna work out, and I'm the man. And I'm gonna make good decisions to keep this roof over my family's head, decisions to keep this business going, and it's all gonna work out. And we're not gonna lose our house. That ain't gonna happen. Somehow the parachute is gonna open and we're gonna land safely on the ground, and we're gonna have a great story to tell other people. So I had this superhero complex, right? And things are still just getting worse because I wasn't prepared for the pressure. And so my house goes into foreclosure, and we literally, my wife and I, have not told anyone. We haven't told my family, we haven't told her family. If I admit that we're in the process of getting our house foreclosed, if I share that with people, I also feel like I'm admitting defeat, and I didn't want to do that. So the parachute didn't open, and we end up losing our home. The day that we moved out, all the emotion, all the pressure, all of the decisions that I had made, it all came to a head. And this guy who, talking about me, felt like I was this superhero, felt like, you know, we were gonna get out of it. I see that we're gonna actually have to move, and I just broke down crying like uncontrollably. As we're moving out, I couldn't be tough any longer, and I couldn't stop the tears. And my wife had never seen me weep like that. And this tough guy is now being held in my wife's arms because she's trying to console me from all the tears. And so we move out, and that night we go to my in-laws who live locally, and it's probably about 10 o'clock at night, and we had asked them if we could just come over and talk with them. And we had never done this kind of thing before. We had not told them that we were in this position. No one, by the way that we carried ourselves, could tell that all of these things were going on. And we basically told my in-laws, my father-in-law, my mother-in-law, what was going on, and that we had to move out of our house. And as a matter of fact, we moved out tonight. They were in disbelief. They could not believe what we had just told them. At that time, my wife and I had been married for about 10 years, and they had just seen good things happen. And so they couldn't really fathom that we were coming to them the day we have to move out of our home, asking if they would be willing to take my 5-person family in. We move in with my in-laws. And it was a very difficult time for me. And I think what made it difficult is that every time I would go to their house, it would remind me of the bad decisions that I had made. As a man, I'm called to provide for my family, and I did not see how I was going to be able to provide if I kept the business open. All these things that I had kind of put my confidence in, all those dominoes are falling over. And so I was asking myself, what needs to change? And so I decided that I would try and implement some new habits. And so I started getting up early in the morning, like 4:30 in the morning, and I started, reading God's word. I wrote down some things that I wanted to see happen in my life, and I started speaking those goals out of my mouth on a daily basis. I started exercising on a consistent basis. I started listening. Part of these habits was listening to something faith building every day. And I had to ask for forgiveness from my wife. So I love to tell people that before you see change on the outside, you have to begin to change on the inside. And so as I begin to change and have a different outlook, and not be operating in fear, but operating in the possibility, what could happen for my good instead of what could happen negatively. Some of the evidence is that we were able, 8 months later, after living with my in-laws, we were able to move out into a home. 10 months later, we ended up landing the biggest contract that we had ever landed in the history of my business. My wife began to see a shift and a change in my mindset. Her and I began to talk because I had to ask for forgiveness from some of those decisions that I made. And so I began to listen more to her wisdom and give her a voice. And if she disagreed with it, specifically with a major decision, I would just hold off. And so her and I were able to get into agreement. Our relationship got so much better. What I learned after reading books and listening to people who have had success in their business is that oftentimes when you start a new endeavor, there are going to be setbacks, there are going to be things that you don't know, there are going to be sometimes even failures. And so the statistic that I read several years later was that 80% of businesses, people who start a new endeavor, 80% of those businesses that try again end up succeeding. And so the reason why I'm sharing my story, it's not just about business, it's about life. You're always gonna have setbacks. That's just life. You're gonna have things in your life will not go the way you wanna see it. And so what are you gonna do? Are you just gonna lay down? Are you just going to allow life to happen? Are you just gonna say, well, I'm a failure, I can't get over this? We all have setbacks. We all have setbacks. And I think I heard Les Brown say that if you fall over, if you fall down, if you fall on your back, as long as you can look up, you can get back up. You can overcome any setback, any traumatic experience, you can overcome it.
I'm broken under.